Good afternoon, and welcome to the Voice of Wisdom. With over 60 years of experience as an investment banker, entrepreneur, investment analyst, economist, and venture capitalist, Morty Davis is Wall Street and capitalism personified. The over 400 companies for which he has raised more than $3 billion over the years have created a countless number of jobs and exciting new products. Through the Voice of Wisdom, Mr. Davis explores, analyzes, and debates the most topical political, economic, and social issues facing our world today. Joining Mr. Davis today for a discussion on climate change is Brett Kingstone, Alberto and Jana Kellner. Mr. Kingstone is an inventor, technology entrepreneur, real estate developer, and generous philanthropist. Mr. Kellner is an entrepreneur in the laser show entertainment field, and Jana runs a fashion design company. And now, Mr. Davis and Mr. and Mrs. Kellner.
It's 6:30 Wednesday. We're back together again. I'm delighted to be spending time with you every Wednesday evening, and because you're all so bright, you send me such great messages. Except once in a while I get a threatening message if I say something negative about Trump. But on the whole, you read to my wisdom, and I really appreciate your involvement in this podcast. I don't know why my producer tells all of my wonderful achievements, but the best achievement of all, my most valuable assets in my life, I made with my wife, who passed away about 2 years ago. We had 4 daughters. I never did figure out how to make a boy. 4 daughters, 30 grandchildren, over 70 great-grandchildren, and before she passed away, we had 1 great-great-grandchild. Now we have 2 great-great-grandchildren. So that's really, if I lost all my money and everything else, it wouldn't be as meaningful as if I lost one of those great assets, one of those kids, even though I have a lot of them. And also, if you have a lot, there's a lot of aggravation and trouble too that comes with it. No rewards come without a price. I get stitches wholesale at my local hospital, because every day there's one kid crashing, even the littlest ones. One that's about 3 years old ran into a piano stool, busted her head open. Another one was playing football and busted his head open. So after 100 stitches a year, I get a big discount. But that's the price. Every asset has a price. Anyway, it's great to be back with Brett Kingstone, one of my favorite people in the whole world. He's a really true genius entrepreneur. I funded him when he was a little boy, and some of the people in my office said I was crazy because he looked like he was still just out of his diapers. And I knew that he's a big winner, and I had an instinct, and thankfully he proved me right. So I love him, and the other side of the coin is he doesn't agree with me about anything. So we argue every.
I love you too.
Every
I don't agree with you, but I love you.
Every time Brett's on my show, he gives me an hour of aggravation. But even though we disagree, we agreed to stay in love. So welcome back, Brett. Thank you for participating and offering your wisdom. You certainly add to the wisdom of my listeners. So today we're going to discuss global warming. I suspect, I'm not sure, I didn't discuss this with Brett earlier today, but since I know he always disagrees with me about almost anything political, I'm pretty sure he's going to be adversarial to my point of views. And I like to listen to him because he opens up my mind to other possibilities. So, what do you think about dealing with global warming?
Well, Morty, first, my friends and my girlfriend are staying with me in my ranch in Colorado, Kenia Illan, who owns a chocolate company, but worked for J for 16 years. So I understand investment, knows, and also very much, coming from Honduras, South America, my two friends coming from Europe, Italy, more rounded discussions. As you know, I'm very opinionated. So let me just maybe pass this to Alberto and Yellen to start to say, what are they seeing with the climate change issue in Italy and what their thoughts? And then later I'll share my with you. So Alberto, please.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that in Europe and especially in Italy, we are now more and more concerned about the environment, about all the things to keep the environment more clean and to have less impact on all the activities. What I noticed is a big difference between the US and Europe, and especially Italy. In the last years, we really changed our behavior, both in business and private life. Just to make an example, in Milan, more than 70% of the trash that we produce in the house. It means that we divide every day cans, glass, paper, from the food, and we have to separate everything. And if we don't do right, we get from the city when they grab the garbage from the house. And so we have to be very careful. At the same time, we have to do a lot of savings with the power because the price in the war, the price of the energy, the gas oil went very, very high. We have really to pay attention to all the things that can make savings. This means also to have less pollution in terms of CO2 production. For this reason, also, my company, we had to certify ourselves for a couple of ISO 14001 we have less impact on all our activities and all our works that we do and everything we produce.
ISO is an acronym for International Standards Organization, which creates the rules of procedure not only for now environmental issues, but in manufacturing for safety. Maybe you can express what you've witnessed since you've been in the United States, their actions towards climate change compared to what you perceive is happening in Italy. Maybe compare from what you've seen in America. You were in Boston, you were in Washington, you were in New York, now you're in Boulder, Colorado. What have you compare that to what you see in Italy?
I think the best example favorite me. But it's very surprising for me that we are talking about like climate change and saving energy and New York is on 24/7, 24.
All the buildings were lighted up in the evening.
Yes.
For instance.
For us, it's absolutely crazy because we are from Milano. It's very, as we know, it's very one of the most important city, and all our buildings are after dark. So and also the question about air conditioning. So not air conditioning, for example, because as we know, it's very expensive for us, but also you produce a lot of CO2. So in West, for me, we have really high air conditioning. I live there.
They probably produce a lot of pollution on the road. because when you use the air conditioning heat, you of course use a lot of energy and you produce much more CO2. So this is one of the biggest things that we notice. We feel. And the temperature when you enter in a restaurant, in a hotel home, really used to that in Europe and in Italy, and we have to cover ourselves otherwise we get a cold. This is one of the biggest things that we notice and that we can see that really impact the environment. Is impact really the behavior, reduce the climate change, for sure. Especially in a big city, because all these air conditioning produce more heat outside, and the heat is increasing because of the concrete all around. So it becomes really a sort of a hot bubble in the town. Sometimes the temperature of the town is even 4 degrees more than that if you walk out of the town. So this.
Morty, in short, in summary,
Brett, ask that,
probably argue we're
Brett,
doing
ask
too much. They will argue enough. Yeah. Please, Morty.
ask that other beautiful lady that's with you to move,
I knew it, Morty.
not to move,
Steal her from me.
not to move,
Kenya,
to move over.
Doris,
See you.
You see her?
He'll tell you.
Oh, I don't see her. Okay. Len says he's,
Yeah,
Look, just tell Morty you love him, okay?
yeah. Well, nice to meet you, and thank you very much for having us here. My name is Kenia, Brett's girlfriend.
My dad.
I'm
It's
from Girls, and
it's great to have, it's great to have you all on board. Let me start, my brilliant, phenomenal producer prepared a bunch of questions that we can discuss and see how you feel with respect to these questions. He says, wildfires in Hawaii and Canada, unprecedented rainstorms in California, record heat and flooding this summer. Is this from global warming or just a coincidence?
Unprecedented heat and the storms in California. I think it's global warming. That's the point.
I will say that is part of it is climate change, and yeah, it's part of the global warming. It's something that it wasn't seen before, and we're seeing like different the way the climate is changing. Yeah, definitely it is.
Right, but the fires in Maui and all those are man-made disasters having nothing to do with climate change, Morty. And what concerns me is I see the left on certain social media sites and at CNN and MSNBC, if there's a fire in Maui, somehow it's linked to an irresponsible behavior of people. We had a fire on my mountain here, as you know, December 19th. We had 11 acres of my 35 acres burned, and my best friend, Kenny Goldman, his house was burned to the ground because some woman decided to set fire to a wood-burning stove and take a shower in a 50-mile-an-hour windstorm and a red flag warning. With global warming or man-made disasters like what happened in Maui, Marshall Fire here, which burned 1,000 homes in Colorado, start holding people accountable for bad actions. They start these fires, Morty. And what's happening is there's no deterrence for this bad action.
There's part of that statement that I fully agree with, and that is it's the irresponsibility of human beings, but it's the irresponsibility of human beings is what's causing all the global warming. So you're right. A lot of this occurred in the past, but never at such record levels and so close in time. Every day, every week, we have more of these fires and floods and all kind of things that come from the weather. In the United States, I don't know if you're familiar with, we're breaking every record on heat. Going back hundreds of years. So you sound like Trump. Trump says global warming is a hoax perpetrated by the Chinese to steal our jobs. Is that true?
Let me change that quote for you, Morty. I think the exaggeration of the global warming perpetrated by the Democratic Party and Joe Biden to take power away, it's interesting. I think what was stated by, and especially Italy, they're claiming that the Americans are not doing enough. I think we're doing too much, but they think we're not doing enough. They're on your side, Morty. They more agree with
I agree with them, because America has changed dramatically. It used to be that we cared about people. Now we care about profits. So the oil companies want to drill. Yeah, the big deal is drill, drill, drill. So we'll be energy independent. You know, we're nuclear bomb independent too. We're independent of arms. They're the most independent in the world. And we have started more wars, have been involved with more wars than any country in the world since the end of the Second World War. It doesn't work, this argument. If you build more arms, which everybody loves in this country, because all 50 states get contracts for military equipment, so when they come back to their given communities, given states, they say, oh, we got a bunch of new jobs because they get either they're contractors like Boeing and Raytheon and the major military producers, arms producers, bomb producers, and if they're not major contractors, then they're major subcontractors. But all 50 states love, and also psychologically and from a language point of view, who could ever vote against defense? You know, with defense, you know, we don't have an offense budget, but most of the things we spend on is for offense, not defense. America's never been attacked in its whole history. What are we doing? We're mixing in everybody's business. You know, Madison.
during war by the British. We were attacked by the British. We had the Germans shooting torpedoes from their submarines on the East Coast, and we have the Japanese on the West Coast. We were attacked at Pearl Harbor by the Japanese, Morty. We have been attacked. That's why we must have a
Pearl Harbor.
And now
Pearl Harbor is not.
China, mark my words,
Pearl Harbor.
attack us.
Pearl Harbor was not ever part of the United States. The British attacked us over 200 years ago because they owned us. So we had a war with them. But since the British fought with us, the only war we had was the Civil War, where we killed so many of our own. We're the biggest war machine in the world. The other country that is involved in war is involved with our military equipment. We love it. It's the most productive, most rewarding product we export throughout the world. Saudi Arabia screws us every day by cutting the amount of oil so the price should go up. They're happy to sell less and less, because the less they sell, the more revenues they take in. And we love them because with all the money they get from the oil, they spend it all on American military equipment, and they couldn't fight their war out against Israel or anybody else for more than a week.
Ferraris. taste in cars and fashion.
I love the Italians. I love the Italians. I love the Italians. I love the Italians. The minute they're not belligerent. The minute they get attacked, they put their arms down, and they had the Maginot Line before the Second World War. They said,
what is the Italians love everybody, okay? They just have love for the world, love for everybody. They're not belligerent, okay? I agree with you on that.
we have one of our founding forefathers, Madison, introduced the Madison Doctrine. He said we should never be involved in anything but in any conflicts or, confrontations, belligerencies, other than in North or South America. And we're all over the world. Look, since the end of the Second World War, we were in North Korea, in Korea, the Korean War. We still haven't made peace. The war has ended. I mean, the active war has ended, but we still don't have a peace treaty. We had the Korean War, then we had the Vietnam War, then we had the Iraq War, then we had the Afghan War. We haven't won a war. We've lost immense blood and treasure without accomplishing anything. Why did we go to war in Afghanistan? We belong in Afghanistan like Italy belongs in the Bronx. I mean, it's ridiculous. 3,000 people were killed.
There's much shooting. The South Bronx is Afghanistan. Yeah, I get it. Morty, one question I have for you. With this one war, and that's the war in Ukraine and Russia. That we should be funding this war in Ukraine and Russia. Your friend Joe Biden, who spent $120 billion of our money on the war in Ukraine and Russia.
I don't agree. We didn't try diplomacy at all. We didn't try diplomacy at all. Remember, before the war started, at least we should have tested it. Putin said, if you don't let Ukraine into NATO, I won't attack Ukraine. And we attacked them anyway. So why did we try that?
$100 billion, wasting our money for nothing. And we should have settled this diplomatically with one meeting with Putin in Geneva and signed an agreement. This war would never exist. It was due to the confidence of our leadership in Washington.
I don't know if we could have settled it, but at the very least we should have made a diplomatic effort. What? I mean,
yeah.
Well, I missed the humor. Oh.
Yeah.
Turn off the show. Got the wrong. Yeah, we got the wrong guy.
American, I agree with you. Kenia, do you agree with him?
I agree with him.
And it's not just because he's handsome, because he's smart, right?
Yes.
She said she agrees with you not just because you're handsome, but because you're smart, Morty.
Brett, if you agree with me, I must be wrong. No, but the United States.
It fights. I don't want to get in a fight with you today. I'm very good. I'm gonna let them talk, okay? You ask them questions. You're in charge.
We're all too young to remember this, but before it was called the Defense Department, our Defense Department. You know what it was called?
War Department.
That's it. So we we needed a euphemism. You got to say something that's more. It doesn't sound like you're a warrior. So we changed it to Defense Department. Who could be against defense? But it's still the War Department. You don't. A euphemism, as you say, a more pleasant way to describe something that's terrible. So, like, if somebody loses a father, you don't walk up to him and say, I'm really I commiserate with you because your father dropped dead. You say, I feel bad because your father passed away, for the loss of your father. You say it in a nice way. So we decided, War Department, we didn't want to be deemed as a warrior. So, but the reason we entered Afghanistan, I'm told, and after the Russians were there 10 years and left with their tails between their legs, tracking them, they couldn't win a war in Afghanistan. We were there almost 20 years. We didn't gain anything. There's no progress there. We spent billions, actually a couple of $1 trillion there. Why? Because 3,000 people were killed in 9/11 in the World Trade Center. We should have gone after Osama bin Laden, like we did ultimately. We got him in Pakistan and killed him. But why are we attacking the whole country? It shows you how belligerent we are. And Bush
to bomb them, we should not have sent
and Bush
people on the ground.
Bush started a war.
No need.
And Bush started a war in Iraq, saying they have weapons of mass destruction, and it turns out they didn't. I mean, Saddam Hussein was ridiculous. He should have invited us. So come on. What?
Yeah,
And by the way, they agree.
absolutely.
They agree.
How-
The more you
I'm gonna have them on next week.
argument,
I know, I'm going to have your friends next week. You stay home. Anyway, next week. Why, here's the other. This is the next question my producer poses. Why will or won't the free market work to address climate change? We said,
why should we have the free market or not address climate change? Is the free market
Yeah.
capable of addressing it?
we are,
I don't think
we argue that the free market well functions, and it didn't, because, you know why? Let me answer before you say yours. Because there's so much profits in it, the oil companies make so much money that the free market is not free. It's influenced by the contributions of the big oil companies and all of the people that make tons of money from oil. There'd be more jobs if we sent the people to work on global warming than on oil. Go ahead. I'm sorry to intrude.
Here he goes. What's your answer?
I think that the free market is not able enough to regulate themselves to the climate change. It is required some rules done or by governments or by international agencies will put some commitments, some targets that have to be reached. Otherwise, the free market, especially in the Western countries, will look more for the profit and not for the environment respect and for the climate change. So I think it's necessary or nation agencies like United Nations or other agencies that can regulate these a little bit. Yes.
You know, the Constitution, our Constitution, or the what is it? The rights.
Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights.
The Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights says the United States should. This is the charge they gave to their descendants. The United States should produce life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Right? Life, liberty, and pursuit of. And they also said we should work towards a more perfect union. That's right, specifically said. It's evolved to where life is not that important, because with the guns in this country, we're the only country that has so much killings, and it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. And in terms of happiness, the UN does a survey of which countries are the happiest. And unfortunately, we're the wealthiest, but nowhere near the happiest. The happiest are the Scandinavian countries. Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway. We're number 16. Even Israel's ahead of us. A small country like Israel is number 10. And the United States is number 16. Because we're not for happiness. We're for life, liberty, and a pursuit of ever-growing GDP, ever-growing economy, and ever-growing profits. And even Milton Friedman, who I loved, great economist, won the Nobel Prize, said the only duty of the corporation is to make more and more profits. Don't care about the employees, don't care about your community, don't care of the damage you do by leaking oil into the ocean, into the rivers, or chemicals into the rivers. All of that hurts profits. So don't care. Just strive for bigger profits. And we're successful at that. But we're not successful with all the wealth we have. We should be the happiest, right? Shouldn't we be the happiest? We're the wealthiest.
Agreed. I can tell you, I'm very happy right now, okay?
Yeah, I know. Whenever you're on drugs, you're always happy. No, you're a happy guy. If everybody was like Brett Kingstone, we'd be a happy country. Unfortunately, greed dictates. Capitalism is great, but when
I also think there's a lot of goodwill in this country. Morty, I rode my motorcycle across the United States. I had the opportunity to meet people in almost every one of the 48 states while crossing the country 2 times. We have wonderful people in this country, I must tell you, compassionate people. I was stopped just outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee. I had a terrible rainstorm. The rain was coming down so hard I could hardly see my hand in front of my motorcycle headlight. I pulled off to a 7-Eleven, and an African-American Baptist preacher came to me, saw me soaked. He made a prayer for my safety on my trip. Really heartfelt. I'd stopped in many small towns. They asked me, hey, where are you staying? I said, well, I'm not really sure yet. Oh, you can stay at our house. We'll cook for you. Let's talk, telling me about their lives and stuff. I slept on at least 7 couches in 7 different states. Really, the American people have good hearts. That I think the people running our corporations right now are the most insanely mad people. They're more concerned with gender equity, inclusion, and virtue signaling, and having Disney showing the worst things in their cartoons and their movies to try to advertise that they're LGBTQ. You know what? A 5-year-old and a 3-year-old doesn't need to see any sex, period. Heterosexual or homosexual. This people being different sexualized characters at an early age to kids, I think is child abuse. So I think the problem, Morty, is not the problem is the leadership of our corporations have gone so woke, so crazy, they don't even care about profits anymore.
Brett, I never took a motorbike throughout this country, but I think the American people are great. But there are some people that control. We're not a democracy. 75% of the people in this country are for gun control. But the NRA, the National Rifle Association, targets their contributions. They you're more likely to die. You're more likely to die from a shooting than anybody who doesn't have a gun. Once you pull out your gun, you raise the ante. The guy. If somebody robs my house, I will be as nice to them as could be. I'll give them whatever they want. I just want them out of the house.
Or
if I pull,
I would grab their dead body out of my house. I'm sorry, I disagree.
If I pull a gun on him, I'm more likely to.
You or your family. What if robbing you is not enough? What if they want to take one of your daughters? What do you do then? Morty, we lost news. You know why? First thing
I'll
that
give,
he did is he took away the guns,
what do you call
immunity,
it?
and the guns.
Dowry.
They lost the ability to defend themselves. They
If
lost
they want,
6 million because
if they
they
want,
couldn't defend themselves, and they were herded like sheep to the concentration camps.
if
They
they
had
wanted to take,
weapons.
Brett,
6 million Jews.
you asked me a question. You asked me a question. If they wanted to take one of my daughters, I'd give them a nice dowry.
Huh? You give them a salary?
A dowry. A dowry. You know what a dowry is? Dowry.
No.
D-O. You don't know what a dowry is?
Morty, the bad guy, you shouldn't be with your daughter, period. End.
A dowry is when you get a great son-in-law, you give him a big gift. I'd give the guy a big gift if he took my daughter. No, this country is not.
Yeah, I understand it. You give me,
This,
okay, so she wouldn't trouble you anymore. I get it, okay. Morty, I gotta tell you something. This nation was founded because we had an armed citizenry. We had a militia that was able to rise up against the British and create the nation. The reason why this nation hasn't been invaded is for our an armed citizen. That's the Second Amendment, Morty.
the Second Amendment, if you read it, says a well-armed militia. Not every man. It says that a well-armed militia. Every man is
People, Marty. Yeah.
a well-armed militia. Why did they put in that preface? Because it's not for every man. And you could have it, but you don't need assault weapons that were created for war to kill as many people as fast as they can. 100 bullets in 1 minute. It's outrageous. It's you know why? Again, it's
I
why
assure you, they'll be carrying assault weapons, Morty. I assure you.
it's profits because
The Chinese invade us, they will be carrying assault weapons, not pea shooters. So you can't defend yourself against an invasion of another country with a one-shot gun. And I assure you, our enemies will be carrying assault weapons if, God forbid, China's the biggest military base they have in the world. But more, right now, China's building the biggest military base they've ever built in Cuba, 90 miles from our shore. You think they're building that because they want peace?
Stop making that. Yeah, what are you talking about? When we broke up the Soviet Union, do we want peace? We should have invited them to the NATO because they were doing the right thing. Instead, within 2 years, we put missiles in Poland and in Hungary facing the Russians. That's no way to win them over and include them in the world. If you make somebody an enemy, they become your enemy. It's outrageous.
Kenia, who was born in
Once and for all,
Slovakia, Eastern Europe. Yeah. Let me
Brett,
ask
once
you a
and
question.
for all, yes.
Was next to Poland and the Eastern European countries. What do you think Philip Morty just said? That we threatened the Russians when we put missiles in Poland. Do you agree with him or disagree? As somebody who and had the Russians occupy your country grow up.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm absolutely sure that we never will react in that way because, as you know, absolutely, they have key agreement and means and everybody knows that wasn't Russia who
Violated it.
yes. So
She's agreeing with you, Morty. She says that the Americans violated the agreement between Russia and Ukraine,
yes.
not Russia, and that if we just would have met with Putin and signed a contract, like he said, we will not make Ukraine a member of NATO for 10 years, nor will we station missiles ever for 10 years on the war.
Because
Okay?
that happened already, right? Something about that you never Kennedy wasn't absolutely agree with what happened in Cuba. Right? That was very, very easy question. That was born the late line. Why we don't use anymore the late line? two guys had the line in one house and it remained, just pick up the phone and let's talk about it. Why would happen this? I don't understand. And we know that everything starts with 14. And I was working in fashion industry, and I can tell you absolutely that I saw with my eyes clothing manufacturers in Italy, because I was producing the shoes for highest, most important fashion brands of the world, and I saw the closet among 300, 400 employers because of embargo to Russia. And this brings to Europe a huge, huge issue, economics issue, and everything. I don't agree. I don't care who provided what, but I think that we have missed that diplomacy at all. And I wasn't at the time on board in '68. But what happened was the same what happened in my country, August 21, '68, midnight. The war coming in Czechoslovakia from every part of the country. And at the time, we have a leader that was, his name was Alexander Dubček. I'm sure that you know him. And he was most important leader that ever Czechoslovakia had after the Second War. That he said, please, don't do nothing, okay? We will deal it like by democracy. And this not happening in Ukraine. That I think the Zelensky held that situation in the worst way that have. And if you will come to Europe, you will see all very healthy young men not really fighting for countries, for the country, for Ukraine. They are in the rest of Europe living their life problem. But I think that this is really what never couldn't happen. Like, no.
She's agreeing with you, Morty. She feels that this war between Ukraine and Russia never should have happened. It was a failure.
Absolutely.
She's
What's Kellner's first name? What's her first name?
Kenia. Kenia.
Kenia.
The one who was talking, John. She wasn't talking. Was she talking, or the other one was talking?
This,
The one that
this was Jana Kellner from Italy, who originally is from the Czechoslovakia Republic or Slovakia. Okay, now no.
What's her first name? The one from Czechoslovakia, who was just talking.
Jana.
Jana?
Jana. She's Italian. She's Italian citizen.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Oh,
not.
no. She's resident of Italy from Slovakia. Yes.
I would like to see her appointed head of the diplomatic corps for the United States, because she's got the right
I
attitude.
agree. She should be.
It's so ridiculous.
She seeks to very.
No, but you're saying we wouldn't have gone to war. I don't know, but we should have tried. You try everything before you go to war. My view is we should outlaw wars totally, because we take young kids, our best future, young men and women, and we put them with these weapons that kill 100 bullets a shot with bombs, with everything. Absent us putting them at war with the other side, the two guys shooting at each other, the two women shooting at each other, would be best friends. And we create such, and I have to repeat over and over again, the United States has never been touched on its own territory, never. Pearl Harbor was not the United States, Afghanistan, I don't know which year, and remember, we defeated the British with muskets that shot one bullet and then they had to take a rest, another 2 minutes till they reloaded, another. That's different, but I'm not against guns, but not to make it available to everybody without analyzing if they're capable of we make people who drive a car take a driver's test, make sure they know how to park, and with guns, we don't make sure that they know how to shoot, we don't make sure that they know how to put it away. So many little kids are killed every year by the children of policemen or gun owners because they leave their guns around loaded and they play with it, and it's outrageous. It's outrageous. It's sinful. It shows how little respect we have for life. That kids at school. So now what's the solution of the National Rifle Association? They don't have a solution to sell less guns because every time there's a manslaughter, a major slaughter, the next month they sell more guns than ever because the NRA warns them that the government's gonna, because of this, the government's gonna take away your right to own guns. No other country is even close to us. It's sinful that we want to put guns in the hands of teachers so they should be able to fight off if there's somebody. I mean, it's idiotic and it's heartless that we let little kids die. Let me hear from your guests. I want to hear what their view is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I want to state that I love US, I love America. The abroad policy the last 30, 40 years, we did a lot of mistakes and they were involved, as you say, in different wars and in different worldwide scenarios that can be avoided. Another big mistake was the support or the interference in the Arabs crisis during 2010, 2011 that brings solutions, and we still have a very uncertain situation in Mediterranean, in Libya, in Tunisia, and then what happened in Syria. This because also, the United States want to bring democracy in countries where or they needed to have a ruler, or they used to have a ruler for many, many years. You cannot have the democracy from a day to another one. And this caused a lot of riots, the destabilization, but still very, very high in the lower Mediterranean, south Mediterranean, especially, and also this affects Italy. We have thousands of immigrants that try to cross the sea every single day. We have this big problem with immigrants. I mean, we're talking about 2,000 people every single day arriving, and they want them to spread around Europe. But we have these big issues also with criminality coming from these problems. So I totally agree with you that all these interference in the worldwide scenarios was a mistake most of the time. Correct?
I want to make it clear, I love America. It's the best country in the world. I love my wife, I love my daughters, but if I think they're doing something wrong or they could do something better, I will criticize them. And I criticize this country, particularly our politicians who only care about getting reelected. They don't care what the people want. I pointed out that most of the people in America are for gun control. They can't get anything passed. And most of the people in America right now are for the woman making the decision whether she should have an abortion or not. It's not my business as a man to interfere with what women want to do with their own bodies. So, but they don't care, it's sad. It's not a democracy, because a democracy, supposedly, the majority rules, and the majority has nothing to say. It's the guys who bring the checks to the donors, to the guys that get elected, and they ask, what do you want me to vote for? And what do the Republicans say? A tax cut. That's their number one thing. Trickle down economics. That means if you give the rich more money, the economy gets better. That's bull. If you give it to the little people, they spend it, and the economy gets better. If you give it to the rich people, if they're operating at 65% of capacity, they're not going to hire people, they're not going to buy new equipment, they're not going to build new factories. So It's not trickle down, it's trickle up.
Well, Morty, questions on the bottom of that list for climate change. I don't want to get Leonard. So.
Is mitigation and adaptation the solution? How you move inland and build seawalls? I think that's unrealistic, you know, to have everybody move into
I
it.
don't think you can do that. What I think is important is having current public policy. Mitigation occurs after you've already got failure to control or fix the problem. And Morty, we're not going to solve the energy problem with windmills and solar. They don't work. I can tell you, living in Colorado, I have 65 on my roof. And guess what? 3 months a year, they're totally covered with snow. They don't make energy. You don't make energy during the night. You can drive down and hundreds of windmills. They're never turning. You need to have alternative
Brett,
that work. Okay.
Brett, I don't agree with you, but we've been remiss. I care even if there's only a 10% chance that global
agreement in this program. Why not now?
if there's only a 10% chance that global warming is potentially devastating, I would spend the money on that to save this world and to improve this world for my children and grandchildren. So I'd rather spend it on that.
Spend money on the right answers. You have to spend the money on the right solutions, not in cockamamie ideas that are proven failures. We need to spend the money on energy-saving alternatives that work, not ones that fail. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Alberto. He knows a little bit more about that than I do. I'd like to hear the European point of view. Go ahead.
The right solution is to do what we did with this. What was the
Sputnik.
Sputnik. With Sputnik, we wanted to beat the Russians to the moon. The Russians were laughing at us. They said, "You'll beat us to the moon when you create a man as small as an orange," because we were sending up little things to outer space. But we said, Kennedy said, we're going to beat them, and we went all out. We sent money to every university, to every company to work on it. That's what we have to do with energy. Whether it's not wind or solar, it's all the things. It's electric vehicles. There's hundreds of things, but we have to care about it. We've had the biggest external tax we've tolerated in the history of the human beings by letting OPEC exist and being blackmailed and paying higher prices. If not for OPEC, oil would be in Italy what they're paying for gas to fill up their tanks. It would be less than half the price, a quarter of the price, because it's only because of the
gallon. You should hear him. He's paying $10 a gallon in Milan right now. Please give me your opinion.
So the gas in Europe, especially in Italy, is very expensive. It's much more expensive than here. This happens more Ukrainian increase the prices because speculation too. We have just before the summer, or just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, prices rises about 30% of the gas stations, just because people were going to holidays, and so this is speculation. On the other hand, we had last winter the gas price, the natural gas going more than double it was before. And this because of the Ukrainian crisis and because we have to approach the gas from other countries instead of Russia. Anyway, I think that we have to go both with traditional fuels as well as innovative alternative energies. What we have to do is even to reduce using these technologies and using some savings, because now the technologies allows to have a lot of savings. In my company, we changed all the lights from fluorescent bulbs to LED, as well as all the lights in the entertainment industry that they work with now are changing from traditional lamps to LEDs. And we have more less consumption, and also the lights looks better. And so this is possible to be done, as well as in big city we can use electric instead of traditional cars. I have both. I use usually the fuel gas oil car. I have to travel for long distance on the weekends, and instead in the city I just use a small smart electrical city car that I can load and recharge in my garage. And so this is possible. I mean, this is possible, especially in the big city. But for sure, I will turn all the lights off during the night. These are savings that really impact the ambient. They really are easy to do that, and they cost nothing. So we can do really these things if the people want to do this at the each level, from the small house to the biggest skyscraper company.
Mr. Kellner, Senior Kellner, I want to tell you, if not for OPEC, if not controlling the supply and fixing the price, you wouldn't be paying more than $2 a barrel ever. Because you know what it cost the Saudis to take the oil out of the ground? $3 a barrel. And they want it to be $80, over $80. If they had their way, it would be over $150. And they got it up there 2 years ago. It's outrageous. In the United States, if they did that, they'd be arrested. But it's our fault. We let them do it. Because we're the consumer. Every other product, the consumer dictates. They spend money for advertising to get you to buy it. If we said we're not going to buy a barrel of oil from Saudi Arabia, and we're not only that, but we're not going to supply you with wheat and rice and whatever you need, it would end. But the oil companies love it. So the United States sticks with our oil companies. It's tragic.
Well, Morty,
they're ripping off the world.
Now, Morty, hold on. How much money do you think in the price of a gallon is state, federal, and local taxes? Because in California, we're paying $7 to $8 a gallon, while I'm paying $4. What do you think, and that price is state and local and federal taxes? I'm questioning you.
I have no idea, but it's not. It's not that
much. How much do you think represents taxes from the state of California, the government of California, Colorado, and the federal government? How much do you think?
I have no knowledge, but whatever you say, if you have the knowledge, you could tell me. But
almost a third of the price. It's a third of the price of the United States, Alberto. What is it? 50%. And it's 50% in Italy. So it's not, unfortunately, not the Saudis that are screwing us. It's our own governments that are screwing us with the taxes. 50%.
Government that gets it's at least it's our government. At least it's our it's not this. At least it's the Italian government. Hopefully, use it for the benefit of their people, and we use it for the benefit of our people. When we give it to Saudi Arabia, we don't get the benefit. So that's nonsense. In this country, they would be in jail. You can't fix the price and fix the supply without going to jail in this country, and we let them. They announced it. Things were, the price was dropping. It recently dropped to $67 a barrel, Texas oil. And they said we're going to cut the supply by 3 million barrels a day.
May I ask you a question?
Anything.
Why don't we produce all our own oil and buy Saudis? I didn't hear that out of your mouth. Why don't we have America produce more oil so we don't need to buy any oil from the Saudis? Why do Wendy's hands and knees like
that's not an answer.
oil?
That's not an answer. That's not an answer. I don't want that toxic poison that gives people asthma and every disease. I want to cut out all oil. That's not a disease, this idea. I want to cut out the use of oil totally, because it's a toxic. It creates illness and asthma and it's like tobacco. The tobacco company,
You know what?
the tobacco company,
You want to talk about
the-
time, Morty?
What? Wait, let me tell you, the tobacco companies were producing poison, cancer, and they hired scientists to say, "Oh, that's bull, that's nonsense." While their own kids, it shows out their priorities. Their own kids were smoking, and they knew it was giving them cancer, but that's not as important as they're making money. So and it's the same with.
We should be getting less money per barrel from Saudi, which indicates you think we should buy oil cheap from Saudi. Maybe that's the case. We shouldn't be buying oil from them at all.
Right,
Get oil from Saudi.
right, we shouldn't.
We should be in the United States alternative sources.
Because we don't do anything to replace that toxic oil. If we took an approach like we took when the Russians shot up, what is it called? Sputnik, with the oil, in no time at all, we'd solve the problem. We wouldn't have to buy from anybody. Anyway, God bless you. Time is up.
Bad idea. Obama wasted
What?
billions investing in companies that were new energy options that went bankrupt. Almost
Leave me alone.
the government invested in went bankrupt.
We're spending 750 billion on defense spending. 750 billion. Are any of us going to die from an attack from terrorists? What we're going to die from is cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all these things. We should spend our money at the thing that's going to kill you and me and the congressmen and the senators and the president. Next time we can talk climate change. My producer, Len, says, next time we can talk climate change. I love you. Thank you, Mr. Kellner. Thank you all. Thank you, beautiful ladies. It was nice.
Morty.
It was having beautiful